in the Q&A.
Yeah, I'll work to answer them.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our next session is with Greg MacCurtain, and his daughter Abby has Leigh syndrome. He's an amazing advocate, and he's going to tell us his story. So I'd like to welcome Greg.
Hello.
Yes,
Uh,
we can hear
oh,
you, Greg.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me. What an excellent presentation by Dr. Gray. You know, some very inspiring things it looks like for the future for Leigh's disease as well as mitochondrial disease. So thank you, Dr. Gray. Excellent presentation. And thank you so much for having us. And, you know, Cure Mito, what a name. Because that's exactly what we're looking for. You know, we're looking to relieve these illnesses mainly of our children as well as future kids as well, so they don't suffer. So thank you so much for having me. What I'll do is I'm going to go through what we call is birth to diagnosis. You know, the reason we brought on here is for all the running that we do together, Abby and I. Now, Abigail is 12. She's turning 13 this winter in January, which we're really excited for, sweet 13. So Abby's a very vibrant, happy little girl. She was diagnosed at 10 months of age of Leigh's disease. And we sort of knew from day one that something wasn't right. So she was born at 35 weeks prom. There was no complications at all. And when she was born, it was actually, we had a nor'easter here in Massachusetts. So we stayed an extra day at South Shore Hospital. But when she came out, she was pretty colicky, trouble feeding, but extremely vibrant smile that she still has to this day. So anything that was bothering her, whether she was colicky, but eye contact immediately with mom and dad, she would brighten up, even though maybe she was deep down hurting inside from the feeding that, you know, we realized months later that she wasn't able to swallow properly. So, you know, one term that we heard from the doctors, even at South Shore Hospital at the very beginning was, you know, they suspected that she had acid reflux and she would outgrow it. And that is a term that we heard very often. And I'm sure many of you parents that are listening, as well as, you know, advocates, it's probably a term that you've heard as well. But we had a gut feeling that something wasn't right. And it wasn't until about the 6-month checkup that the doctor realized when he tried to measure Abby on the table that he couldn't quite extend her legs properly, that she was extremely tight, you know, and now we know that it's that her muscles are extremely tight, hypertonia in all extremities. So I saw the look in his face. He didn't say anything to me, but I knew it was concerning. And that's what he did a follow-up with neurology. She was born with a large birthmark on her head, but that turned out to be nothing. You know, they were a little concerned about it, but it did not turn out to be anything other than a birthmark. So a couple months, it took a few months to get doctor's appointments with neurology. And eventually we were still having a lot of feeding problems and high fevers. And when I mean high fevers, I mean 104, 105 degrees, that she was spiking rather quickly. But it was manageable most of the time, and the fevers would go away and they were sort of unexplained. And we brought this up to the pediatrician. And when it reached 105, we brought her to the emergency room, and they sent us home. And that usually was the case with all our emergency visits early on, as well as pediatrician visits. Now, a little background about myself. I'm a fireman. I've been a first responder for 20 years now, as well as an EMT. And prior to getting on the fire department, I worked for Boston EMS, which is the 911 ambulance for the city of Boston. So we were, quite busy, saw a lot. Looking back on it, it was before kids. I don't ever come across anybody with Mito or Leigh disease. But if I do now, then mom and dad's going to get a big hug. And that's for sure. So kind of fast forward, we finally get, she's admitted to the hospital, but that we sort of had a press for that. At about 9 months of age, we called the GI doctor and we said, something's just not right. We'd like her admitted in to be fully evaluated and worked up. And quite frankly, that took a little pressure on us to do that. We got pushback for some reason for it. And eventually they agreed and put her in as failure to thrive, even though she was gaining weight. She looked good overall. And she was going to go in for a feeding tube, a G-tube placement. And I believe an MRI position opened up, so they did a brain MRI, and that's when everything stopped for us. So that was a very long time waiting for that result. We were in the hospital. She was admitted, and when they eventually came out, they told us, let's sit down and we need to discuss some things with you. And they found some white matter, some gray matter in the basal ganglia, and they attributed to a form of mitochondrial disease, Leigh's disease. But at the time, the specialist was not in the hospital. So we had to wait a couple of days for that doctor to come back. It was kind of nerve-wracking. And we were also expecting at that time, Heidi was pregnant with our second child. You got to imagine from a parent standpoint, here we are, we're dealing with a disease that I've never heard of before, as well as expecting a second child. It was very difficult for us. You Google Leigh's disease and it's nothing but, doom and gloom. But thankfully, here we are almost 13 years later with a diagnosis of 2 years at the time to live when she was 10 months of age. So we have been very fortunate, up until this day. So she did have a G-tube place at that time in a swallow study, prior to that. So she is not, she's only tube fed. She does do taste by mouth. And all those, the fevers, the unexplained fevers went away. So it was aspiration pneumonia at the time, looking back on that. And she is wheelchair bound. She cannot stand up. She cannot sit up on her own. She has really poor core strength. Well, she's actually very strong, but she cannot sit up on her own. So she's in a regular manual wheelchair, which the doctors at the time didn't think she'd be able to propel herself, but she's able to. As we've been in and out of the hospital for many years, we've had some lull the last couple of years, which we're, very happy for. But as many as you parents out there, that there's something going to come around the corner and surprise us. So, unfortunately, you kind of have to be on your tippy toes and always watch it out to make sure that, the little girl's healthy. So Thomas was born. And there was some complication there. I'm not going to go in kind of that. It's a separate thing, but we did have some complications there, but he's fine now. So two kids at home. I'm a fireman. I get some days off, and you're kind of stuck there. You got one who's not mobile, and the other one is an infant. So I got a double stroller, and I started running with the two of them. And I heard about Dick and Rick Hoyt. If you don't know them, they're father, son. Rick has CP. Unfortunately, they just both passed, but Rick lived to about 60 years old. And they both accomplished many Ironmans and many Boston marathons. So I read some books that they had written and very inspirational. So that's kind of took our journey towards running. And the first run I ever did with Abigail, she was so happy. The wind in her face, the freedom that she got, as you can see some of those pictures, she was very happy. So it was something I needed to keep doing. I was not a runner. I was an athlete overall, but I was never a runner. So we entered some local races, and that kind of took off. And we met the Hoyts, and we've teamed up with the Hoyts as well. And we run local races pretty much every weekend. We've ran several marathons, with the first being in Ireland, where my family immigrated from. I thought that was kind of touching. So we ran our first in Cork City. And we've ran Boston several times, 6 times now. But Abby has only run Boston with me during COVID. And the reason for that is the BAA has a minimum age of all athletes, even those in a chair, to be 18 years of age. So during COVID, when it was sort of a virtual race, we still ran the course because it's in our backyard, but she ran with me. They couldn't stop me. So she ran with me for that. And then the following year in 21, the 2018, 2019, I had to run solo. I don't particularly enjoy running solo because I didn't get into running for myself. But it was for a good cause. So at the time we were running for MGH, we were running for Dr. Vamsey Mutha's lab, which I'm sure many of you know. Absolute brilliant doctor. And so we've ran for him for several years, as well as her neurologist, Dr. Melissa Walker at MGH. She's phenomenal as well. We also have our own actually 5K coming up in Abby's honor. It's called the Abby Mac 5K, kind of a self plug here. That's in Plymouth, Massachusetts, in downtown. So October 22nd, if any of you are available to come down and run or meet Abby, as well as we're hoping for some para athletes. And if you want to get running with your child or have somebody else push, I can arrange that as well. And then that following weekend, we're going to be running the Marine Corps Marathon down in DC. So we've done lots of races, 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, in triathlons. Abby did her first triathlon when she was 5 years old, and she loved it. So we've done several of those. I do believe, so we go out for a training run and she'll come back, we come back, and she's so verbal, and she's considered nonverbal. She can say a couple words. She says mama, dad, brother, and hi. But she does get a point across for other things as well. She does have a talker and she can use an iPad. But when we come back from these runs or bike rides, she's so expressive in, you can see like neurologically, there's a lot going on in there. And she babbles almost like a baby, but that's okay. She's expressing herself. And she babbles and she's so happy. And it's almost like a high for her. And I do believe that, all this extends, it's given her a better quality of life. It's extending her life. She's just a very vibrant little girl. And right now, I didn't say, so when she was about 2.5 years old, we got into the drug study, Epi 743, at Akron Children's Hospital with Dr. Bruce Cohen. And she's been on that ever since, to this day. And I do believe that it's helping tremendously neurologically. She's come a long way. Able to grip things, able to see things. She'll point to an emblem on my shirt, and whether it's my fire shirt or something like that. And she's cognitively, you can see she's getting better and better. And I do hope that this drug does continue. I've heard some talk, so hopefully that's not the case. She's doing excellent on it. So we hope that it does continue for us as well as the other children. Abigail's also an author. Recently just published a children's book with the help of an author named Todd Sivan, and it's called Abby Mac's Smile. And the title says it all, because that is her smile all the time. She really frowns. She's really doesn't get upset too often. And she likes to goof around with her brother, Tomas, when he's 11. They fight like regular siblings. It's pretty adorable. I'm the youngest of three brothers, so I get it. And, one particular, I'll kind of give you a story that Abby will be in maybe the TV room and speaking or, making noises, and it's bothering Thomas, and he's trying to watch a cartoon or something on TV. So he will push her away, and she'll come back, annoy him on purpose. And he will eventually lock her wheels, which is kind of mean, but it's a brother thing. So I let them kind of figure it out themselves, just like I had to. And Abby's able to unlock her own wheelchair. So, she may get frustrated, but yeah, it's all in good sibling fun.
Well, thank you. Sorry, Greg. This is Casey.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. That's sibling rivalry. I love it. That's my son and daughter have that same thing. So I love it. Abby Mac Smile, is there a way that you could put it in the link or the chat, the link to order the book? It's an amazing book. My children love it. And if you could share that with us, that would be great. As always, thank you so much for your service. And Abby is just amazing. You both are such an inspiration. Thank you so much for talking today. And